Welcome to Inside the Capitol, your weekly update on what's happening in Minnesota state government as seen through a Catholic lens. With sessions set to wrap up by midnight on Monday, May 21st, legislators are putting in long hours inside the House and Senate chambers. But this week, we're focusing on the advocates who are putting in long hours outside the House and Senate chambers, here in the lobby. The peaceful quiet under the Capitol dome quickly turns to a buzz of activity each morning in these final days of session.
Oh, it's crazy. So it's both everything happening and nothing happening all at once.
Well, it's a little busy. It involves really tracking legislation.
So it's a crazy, crazy time with meetings taking place all over the place.
Advocates and activists clamor for their causes to be heard, but among the crowds are those who take their title from the location where they spend many hours.
The term lobbyist comes from the 1700s and the 1800s in Washington at the Capitol and in Parliament. The people hung outside in the lobbies of those buildings and tried to grab legislators and members of Parliament as they went by to influence them on decisions that they were making.
Oftentimes, the term lobbyist has a negative connotation, but in reality, lobbyists act as a resource for legislators.
Lawmakers hear hundreds and thousands of bills every session, and there's just too many bills for them to have knowledge on all the issues. So the job of a lobbyist is to provide the lawmakers with information that can help them make decisions. I think that's an honorable thing to do.
Organizations do that in many different ways. The primary way we do it is have people out around the state talking to the representatives about issues they care about, and we help them have a vehicle and knowledge to do that.
And most people don't realize that everybody is represented in one way or another by a lobbyist. Lobbyists represent business and labor and farmers and conservatives and liberals and Catholics and Lutherans. There are lobbyists for all sorts of organizations that represent all types of people.
And with so many causes worthy of attention, there's not a lot of downtime, even when session finishes.
Well, there's really no off-season for lobbyists, I'd say, because a lot of time is spent preparing for future sessions. There's a lot of planning and strategy that we consider throughout the off-season, if you will. I spent a lot of time creating resources for voters so that they can be informed voters, that they have scorecards and voter guides so that they're able to elect officials that represent their values and their concerns.
Because advocacy doesn't have an off-season, it is often a passion for making a difference that drives lobbyists.
As a person of faith, I believe very strongly that those values should be what inform people when they make decisions. As, again, a person of faith, I see the need to care for those who are in need and who are less fortunate than we are.
My uncle was a state legislator, and so I helped him put up yard signs, and that got me interested in the process. And I got more interested and studied government and studied politics and got involved in student government and Catholic youth organization and different organizations, and it became more and more interesting to me on how government affects the everyday lives of all Americans, and just wanting to be a part of that process and have some influence over the decisions that government was making.
But all the passion of just one lobbyist is not enough to ensure important issues are heard. That's where constituents come in.
Individual voices always matter. I mean, lobbyists are a dime a dozen, and legislators can hear from us anytime, but they don't answer to lobbyists, they answer to their constituents and their voters. So it's always important for the individual to get involved, for the individual to reach out to the person who represents them.
So even though session is wrapping up, as you just heard, your voice matters. You can continue to advocate for human dignity and the common good through the off-season by contacting your legislators. This week, go to mncatholic.org/Action Center to thank your legislators and Governor Dayton for passing and signing the human trafficking and pornography bill into law. There you can send a message via email, Twitter, or Facebook, or you can call them. Thank you again for joining us for Inside the Capitol. Next week, make sure to join us for our final edition of this session. Until then, please share this video with your friends, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and make sure you join us again next week for another edition of Inside the Capitol.